All right, guys, today I got a really great video for you guys to watch today. I pray you guys, whoever's listening or watching, will be blessed and really edified by this presentation so the Most High will be glorified. That being said, today's title is probably going to be on the lines of Has God replaced physical Israel, what many will call today to spiritual Israel or Christians? Have the physical Israel been replaced by modern day Christians today? Now, we're going to start with First Chronicles 16, verse 17. Sometimes it's also we call replacement theology. But we're going to start with First Chronicles 16:17. And I'm going to emphasize the word Israel. I'm just going to read it real quick, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I emphasize Israel. It says, which he confirmed to Jacob a statute, to Israel an everlasting covenant. Now, when we look on the screen here, you're going to see a map of the place of modern day Israel, I should say. The reason why I'm pulling this up is that when people think of Israel, they usually think of a geographical location. However, in the Bible, 9 out of 10 times when the Bible is referring to Israel, it is referring to the actual people and not the actual landmass of Israel. Most of the time, I should say. Okay, which is very, very important to understand. Now, this place again is the assert location of what many would call the Middle East. And someone was once said to me, well, I once heard, I should say, that if this is called the Middle East, then where is the Middle West? And if then where is the Middle North, and then where is the Middle South? So I thought that was like extremely profound. It's just something to think about. Why is this particular place called the Middle East? It's just something, food for thought, something for you guys to think about. Now here, I got this article from worldjewishcongress.org, and some of you guys may ask, what does this have anything to do with our topic? It has everything to do with the topic. Just be patient. I promise you guys, it will all correlate and go hand in hand. Now, I'm not gonna read the article for the sake of time, but I would encourage everybody to research this. But basically, let me summarize this: that there is a group of a tribe in Africa, in South Africa to be exact, or Southern Africa to be exact, who've been claiming for thousands of years that their ancestry is from Jerusalem, Israel. And in fact, that they are one of the lost tribes of Israel. And so a couple years ago, scientists and those who study genetics and DNA went down there and they did testing on these people to see if their assertion is actually true. And guess what happened when they did this test? They were in fact telling the truth, that they have a unique genetic marker, sometimes referred to as the Cohen gene. And I'm just paraphrasing, I'm just going off memory. I saw the documentary, and that is unique to the priesthood that many will associate with Jews. And so, and the moral of the story in the video is on YouTube, guys. I think the National Geographic did this documentary, or the Discovery Channel or PBS. One of those channels did it, and it's like an hour and a half long. At the end, the host basically said is that, hey, you can't judge a book by its cover. Why? Because when we think of Jewish people or Israel, we don't think of dark-skinned people. But genetically speaking, these people are indeed telling the truth, that they are one of the lost tribes, or people call the lost tribes of Israel. All right. I'm going to show you guys something else. Um, Here's a photo, one of the oldest photos of the Samaritans. And I don't know if that sounds familiar. It should sound familiar. You'll find it a lot in the New Testament, a lot of, the narrative in the New Testament, or particular passage about the Samaritans. You know how they didn't really mix well with the Jews of that time. But here are the Samaritan Jews, the ancient Samaritan Jews, the descendants of those people. And here is one of the oldest photos. I believe this was taken in 1890 something, or late 1800s or early 1900s. I forgot the exact date, but pretty much when photography began, and this is what they look like. Okay. This is an actual photo of these people. here, and this is on JewishEncyclopedia.com, and I'm not gonna go through all of it, but it's some great information. I just say, and this ties hand in hand with our topic. Here's a picture of them, the same Samaritans in prayer, and here's their altar here of sacrifice. I should say the place of sacrifice here. Here's another photo of them as well. And so some may ask, what's the purpose of me showing you this? You're going to see in a second. When we think of Jews, we think of these people here, right? And I'm going to pull this up again. I'm going to pull this map up again. And this is not an attack against Jewish people. But you must understand this. There's a difference between the ancient Israelites and modern day Jews. And what is the difference? They're not the same people we're talking about. So if we're going to talk about has God replaced Israel with spiritual Israel, or people will call Christians, we must identify historically who we are talking about or referring to. The most of the people who occupy this asserted place of Israel in the Middle East that identify as Jews are not indigenous to the land of Palestine. They are Europeans in descent that converted to Judaism hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This is not an attack against them. I'm just showing you guys in a historical context. If you do not understand this, it's almost like laying tile. And anybody who's laid tile will understand this. When you are laying tile, if your tile is off a tenth of an inch, eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, it's going to have a trickle down effect. It's going to be impossible to correct. So meaning that when we discuss this topic, we got to go from A to Z. And everybody wants to skip they want to start with A and they say, okay, Israel is done. And they forget B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so on. Okay. And I'm going to show you guys one more thing. And this is taken from the book Babylon and Tikman 2. And it says, the excerpt from it, it says, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem in 70 AD. General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated. Now listen to this. If you don't get anything else out of this video, please get this, guys. Please get these last two lines. Okay, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into where? Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Okay, this is stuff that you're not going to hear in mainstream theology. Okay, now that being said, I just wanted to give you guys context. Now let's start the study. Okay, let's start. We're going to read verse 17, but we're going to start from verse 13 because I want to present a better context. Okay, it says, O offspring of Israel, his servant, the children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are all in the earth. Remember his covenant forever to the word that he commanded for 1,000 generations, his covenant that he made with Abraham, his sworn promise to Isaac, or Yitzchak, which he confirmed to Yaakov or Jacob as a statute, to Israel as a everlasting covenant. Now, to me, and to anybody who's reading objectively, that's pretty straightforward. It says, which he confirmed to Jacob a statute and to Israel an everlasting covenant. But to many and to millions and millions of people, that is not straightforward. Why? Because of this word here, everlasting. Not really the English word everlasting, but the Hebrew word olam, which here is translated as everlasting. Okay, and here's what I mean by this. And I saw something on the website, I think, that illustrated the traditional point. Now, this is from jw.org, which is the Jehovah Witness website. And by the way, I'm saying this not attacking the people to no degree at all, but I'm just using this as an illustration that how people interpret everlasting. Okay, and I thought this would be cool to read so you guys can see. And I'm gonna show you guys how it works. It said, some Bible translators do refer to the Sabbath as perpetual covenant. However, the Hebrew word translated perpetual, which is here will be olam, can mean lasting or indefinite future, not necessarily forever. For example, the Bible uses the same word to describe the Israelite priesthood, which they assert, which God ended 2,000 years ago. All right, so I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to show you how this works, okay? Okay. Let's start here in verse 15. This is First Chronicles 16, um, verse 15, but this is in the New World Translation. This is their translation. It says, remember his covenant forever. Now, we're going to look this word up later on, but this word is olam. This is the Hebrew word that they're talking about. Okay, they translate it here forever. When we look up this word forever, you're going to find the Hebrew word olam. But when you get to verse 17, where it says here they have lasting covenant, guess what word this is as well? It's olam. It's the same Hebrew word that is here, but here is translated forever, but here is referred to lasting covenant. Let's go further down to verse 36. It said, may Jehovah God of Israel be praised throughout eternity. Guess what, guys? This is the same Hebrew word olam, but here is translated as eternity. You don't believe me? That's fine. Let me show you guys. All right. So we started with verse 15. It says, remember his covenant forever. Let's look. What do we find here? Olam. Here is translated as forever. In the Hebrew text here, let olam. Okay. Verse 17, where it says he confirmed Jacob a statute and to Israel everlasting covenant. In their translation, they just have last instead of everlasting. Let's see if the word olam is there. Look what we have here. Olam. Right here. To be exact, the last part reads, let Israel berit olam, which is to Israel a covenant everlasting, literally speaking. Verse 36. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel from everlasting to everlasting. Let's look if we have it. What do we have here? Olam, olam, from everlasting to everlasting. In the Hebrew text, min ha'olam va'ad ha'olam, from everlasting to everlasting. All right, let me show you guys some more. Now this is First Chronicles 17, verse 22 in the New World Translation. It's still on their website, jw.org. It says, you have made your people Israel for your own people for all time. But guess what, guys? Guess what word is behind all time? Is that same Hebrew word, olam. Verse 23. Now, Jehovah, may thy promise... Now, O Jehovah, may thy promise you have made concerning your servant and his house prove faithful for all time. Guess what, guys? Is the same Hebrew word that is behind all time, and that is olam. But here, when we come to verse 24, it says, may your name endure, be exalted forever. And guess what, guys? It's the same Hebrew word, and I'm going to show you guys in a second. But let's go a little bit further. This is Deuteronomy 12:28. It says, be careful to obey all the words I'm commanding you, so that it may always go well with you. Guess what word is behind this word always? Olam. Now let's check it out. It said, be careful to obey all the words I'm commanding you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever. That's the ESV translation. Well, let's look at the text. What do we have here, guys? Ad olam. Here in the Hebrew text. Ad olam. So you have olam, but in that verse, they're translated as always. Now let's go back to First Chronicle. Did we go over? I think this is... Okay, here it goes. First Chronicles 17, verse 22. And he made your people Israel to be your people forever. What word do we have here? Ad olam. Right here. Verse 23. And I think in their translation they put what they put for made for your people for all time. And let me be clear on this. They're very particular on how they're translating this word. Don't think this is a spontaneous translation that we're just going to put all time here and we're going to put. No, it's very particular on how they're translating these verses. Okay, back to verse 23. Now, O Lord, let the word you have spoken concerning your servant and concerning the house be established forever. Forever, let's look up that word forever. What do we have here? Ad olam in the Hebrew text. Right here. Ad olam. And finally, verse 24, and your name will be established and magnified forever. What do we have forever? Ad olam. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Sorry. Shemecha ad olam le'omar. Okay? There we go. So now here's my whole point of bringing this up. And I'm going to stop right here and make this a part when I'm going to continue. Again, we got so much information to present. I don't have an issue with this paragraph. My issue is that if you're going to say forever is not forever, stop picking and choosing where you want it to be forever. Make it consistent. Okay? When it comes to verses like this right here, where it says, remember his covenant forever, and verse 17 is a lasting covenant, because guess what? Lasting doesn't mean forever. Be consistent. But when you are not being consistent and changing the meaning of words or manipulating the English words, you're no longer being objective at that standpoint when you're translating. So if it's going to be lasting here, it has to be lasting everywhere. That's my whole point. And what the reader is not aware of, because many people read the New World Translation as infallible and all other translations are inferior, is that they're just not aware of this. But it's the same Hebrew word, but they're picking and choosing where they want forever to mean really forever, when it's only for temporarily, when they want it to be always, when they want it to be all time. I mean, this is semantics that people play. And this is not just with this translation. This is with a lot of translation. Is that you are putting your opinion into the text that doesn't say that. You have to be consistent. If it's forever, make it forever throughout. And if it's lasting, make it lasting throughout. But you're not doing that. Why? I wonder why it doesn't say here, he established a decree and a everlasting or forever covenant to Israel. Why? Because they could not overcome that text. There's no way to, I don't care how much conjecture, how much eisegesis you want to use, it'll be no overcoming that text. But if you put lasting, you can overcome that text. But it's the same word that is here, same word that is here in verse 36. And I can go on and on and on and on. I can go 2 hours of using olam and how it's used throughout this particular translation and many other translations. And it's not just with olam, it's other words that people play. And by doing that, when you're able to manipulate the words of the translation, you are now having the reader read at a certain way, if that makes sense. The reader is not really reading. They're reading with a particular viewpoint unbeknownst to them. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to make this part 1 and we're going to pick up in part 2. Shalom.